We rolling?
Yep.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. We had a great day here on the tennis court for 4 or 5 hours. So I want to talk about the one-handed backhand tonight. But before I do, would you all, whoever's watching, I know some of you guys out there, would you let me know if we're framed well? Because we're just getting used to this Periscope thing, and we haven't got it wired. So just you can Twitter me at, or you can tweet me at Jack Broudy on Twitter, okay, Jack Broudy, and or I believe you can send me something here on Periscope. So I think you can write a comment, and my wife Sharon, who's behind the camera there, she will look on Twitter and on Periscope to get your comments. But I'll just trust if I don't hear from you, I'm centered and you can see everything. I decided to review a little bit. When I was on the courts today, I was watching a guy give a backhand lesson, and same old, you know, step in, get your racket back, turn sideways. I was just reading online, I wanted to review Fuzzy Yellow Balls, and they have a 6-part fundamentals, and you know, number 1 is turn your shoulders and get your racket back all the way, and step in, and then rotate your body and swing from your arm. And I mean, that's what they say. Rotate your body, swing from your arm, and finish all the way. I wasn't quite sure what all the way meant. I guess it means follow through, and nobody knows what that means either. So first thing I want to say is these guys are all, everybody it seems like to me is missing the boat, and worse than that, they're on the wrong track. You know, they're trying to find digital ways to tell you, like the kinetic chain. Well, get your elbow here and your wrist here, and they're trying to put together a stroke from observational teaching. I mean, all they're doing is looking at a player, trying to see what that player does, where his elbow is, where his wrist and knees are, and then say, do that. But they're really on the wrong track, because the game, as I always say, is bigger than any one player. So, you know, yes, Wawrinka has a beautiful backhand, one-hander, but so does Gasquet. And Gasquet's, you know, 30 pounds lighter. You know, so there's a reason Gasquet hits his backhand so beautifully, and they hit their backhands almost similar, you know, almost alike if you look through my eyes. But, you know, most people say, oh, Gasquet is way up here when he starts, and Wawrinka dips his shoulder more when he starts. But those are just little stylistic differences. The essence of their stroke is all the same. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. We're going to make this fairly brief. So once again, if you can't see me or if I'm not in focus, just let us know on Periscope. And if you like us, of course, send a heart our way and like us. Or you can send me a tweet at Jack Broudy, which is B-R-O-U-D-Y. So once again, the backhand is one of the most misunderstood shots. So the typical backhand lesson has you line up with your racket back, okay? And then somehow they figure you can go from here and muscle your way and try and swing faster and get the power that these pros have. And stay sideways. They always say, stay sideways, throw your left hand back. Well, there's another way to look at this, which is a little more intellectual, a little more intelligent, and I'm going to show you how we look at it here. I'm going to get on an 8-board because it's the best way to practice and to give you an understanding of what it is we do here at the Real Spin and our school of tennis. But the idea of there being many different strokes, we don't believe in it. The backhand is actually a mirror image of the forehand. So you see, if you see my forehand, as I come around and finish, that's the perfect backswing for a backhand. And as I come around and finish my backhand, I'm in the perfect motion for a forehand, and the perfect backswing for a forehand as well. So it's this idea of a figure 8. Okay, everyone's heard me say this for 15, 20 years. But you see, if I just naturally move, right? I just turn to the right. If I just hold my racket loosely, see, the last thing to come is the head of the racket. See that? And it's always catching up to my hips. So, not that the figure eight has to be, obvious in every stroke, but there is an idea of a figure eight stroke in every stroke. So let me show you what I mean on the one-hander. The big problem with the one-hander is people don't realize, number one, that you don't start back here. It's actually, when I'm facing the net, I actually go into the turn and I continue with my hips and I never stop. So number one, you have this momentum of a continuous stroke. And if you think that there's stop back here, watch more carefully. The racket may look like it stops for a minute, but that's only right here as they come around the corner with their hips. You see this? Right there, they come around the corner. So it looks like the racket slows down quite a bit. But the body never stops, and neither does the racket. That's the first big thing you have to remember. So don't get into the backswing quickly and wait. That's a linear stroke. It's not going to work for you. I guarantee it. Make sure you move slowly and time the stroke. Sometimes the ball will be deep, and you'll have less time, to have a big racket motion. So you just leave your racket right there at the 45, as we say, and continue. But you don't speed up or slow down. Once you start going into your swing, you stay continuous in both directions. And now here's the second biggie everyone's missing. And it's this idea of, you watch, everyone tells you to get your racket back. It puts your elbow in this position. See that? So that's not much of a coil. I mean, you can't call this a coil. So on the forehand, the coil is obvious, right? It's evident. You see everyone coming up like this. Well, it's not obvious to tennis pros, but it's obvious to us. And as someone goes into the stroke, their hips move first, and you see how the racket sort of bevels forward a little, and they get this nice round coil. What people don't realize, on the one-handed backhand, there's also a coil. You don't take your racket back. See this? There's my figure eight. Now watch this. With my left hand here, the left hand actually doesn't pull the racket. It actually pushes the racket head. If you watch Wawrinka and Gasquet, their racket heads are here. This left hand is pushing, creating tension. Now do you see the coil? You see how my elbow is facing the ground? And it's not that I dip my shoulder, but I suck my hips into this figure eight, right? So as I go into the figure eight, my shoulder naturally dips with this hip. And my racket head rises with the left hip. You see this? And then I continue. And because the elbow is now down and not back like everyone else does, because the elbow is down as the racket head rises, now this becomes like a pivotal universal joint. You see this? And here's where the power comes as you go from coiled to uncoiled. Right there is where you get the big hit. And if you stay continuous, then you get that nice fluid motion. See that? Really fluid. So the big takeaway from this is, don't lay your racket head back. Take the butt of the racket. And that should be the first thing that comes in. You see this? How I tuck it in? Just like a two-hander would. Except for here, the racket head is up. Tuck this in. You should have a little crease right here in your wrist. Not the other way. But you should actually coil up this way and create a crease. And the butt of the racket comes back. You turn your hips out. And there's that big finish. And it's going from concave to convex. That gives you all the power.
We had a good question.
Okay, please.
Somebody said that they needed to explain the 8-board. That you're making an assumption that people know what the 8-board is.
Oh, sure. Yes, I assume everyone has an 8-board. Okay, for those of you who don't have an 8-board, this is it right here. I'll give you a quick demo. One of these days we'll do a whole periscope on the 8-board. There's a lot we can talk about. But basically, my partner and I invented this board with 2 swivels. It's an adjustable board. And you put it on the ground. It's very, it's not dangerous. It's very low to the ground. And by swiveling your feet, you learn to move your hips in this figure 8, which is the magic move of all the great players. If you start watching, watch Federer, watch Nadal, you'll see their hips never stop. They stay continuous in this figure 8, whether it's the serve, whether it's the groundies, it doesn't matter, volleys, That's why this idea of punching volleys doesn't really work when you have the beautiful volleyers using their whole body. But anyway, so the 8-board's an invaluable tool. If you don't have one, get one. You'll love it. I mean, it's fun. You can test your balance. You can just, you can practice your strokes indoors, on the court. You can just drop feed balls, right? Drop feed, pull the butt of the racket back, turn in, pow. So, thanks for that question. That was a good one. I think that's about it. We don't need a lot of time. If you get it, you get it. So just keep that idea in mind, that it's a whole encompassing stroke. It's not just what you do, right? It's a whole encompassing form. See this? Almost like a Tai Chi form. And look how when you go to the backhand, you see how the head would naturally coil forward. Now you don't have to exaggerate it, right? These guys don't exaggerate like I'm doing, but they do have this wrist firm here, representing the roundness of this side of the stroke. And they don't stop either and wait. You see, they continue. And it's this momentum of coming back and forth in this continuous figure 8 form that makes all the difference. That's where the power comes from. That's where the little kids, you see these little kids hitting these whippy strokes because they don't stop, right? They're floating. And anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Get on an 8-board. You can do it. It's not hard at all. That's about it for tonight. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Sharon, my wife. Thank you. And thanks for all you guys for tuning in. We'll do it again next Sunday. We'll find an interesting topic. Send me one.